Hey strong people, Kalle Beck here from StartingStrongman.com with World's Strongest Man Day 1 updates and results. First thing I do in the morning, gel isn't even dried yet. So on Day 1, we saw the first event they had was the frame carry, and it's when it was announced that Rogue Fitness was going to be the event, the equipment sponsor, the thing I was hoping for the most that they would take and burn and just throw in a dumpster and burn were those awful red frames that have been around World's Strongest Man for the past 5-6 years that have super thin handles and they're knurled and they cut people's hands up all the time. And they don't even look that good. They've been repurposed a lot. We got those great looking, farmer's walks that Steve Slater made for Rogue in the qualifiers. And then we just have these frames again that screw the athletes all up. And pretty much everyone tore their hands, and it's going to affect the whole rest of this contest. And these are the kind of things that I always factor in to my predictions that I don't think a lot of people do, is how those, these little, this and then this person's going to tear their hands, and they probably already did in the arm over arm pull, stuff like that. You got to take all that stuff into consideration in a contest. So, anyways, Mateusz Kilkowski of Poland just absolutely obliterated the course like I thought he would. Shaw was a couple steps behind for second. Janasia was the only person to finish in the first heat, and so he picked up third, sneaking in between Thor, who had a little stumble at the end. Even Shaw, I think those handles being, I think, just 1 inch, where most farmers walks are smooth and 1 1/4. The really big guys, I think it just feels like a razor blade in their hand, so it's harder to grip. Janasia tore the crap out of his hands, and we'll get to that later. Martins was the furthest person. He had the most distance that didn't complete the course. JF Caron ended up in 5th. He was behind Robert Oberst, who ended up at, 6th, sorry, for JF. He was behind Robert Oberst, who ended up taking 7th in the event. And then right at the end, he said, I don't care if my hands are bleeding. I have no skin left on them. He just picked it up and went, and just right at the end, and he saw Obi looked over like, damn it! He took him up so far, and there's only so much he could go. He also tore his hands. Pretty much everyone tore their hands. Els ended up in 8th, Belsack 9th, and Zydrunas Savickas got last in the event, which is sad to see. As I was talking to one prominent person in Strongman, it's like watching an injured lion out there that still has it, but doesn't. He's still better than 90% of everyone in Strongman, but you just know it's not 100% him. It's reported that he has some sort of Achilles or calf injury that he suffered during the bus pull, and I am told that he is not going to be doing Day 2. So Zydrunas Savickas qualifies for World's Strongest Man Finals, but after the first day is out. Going into the car deadlift, so they had it's a front bar car deadlift with pretty low handle, and it kind of sloped down on the front of the frame. Is interesting. We have, it ends up going, Oberst failed to get a rep, which is unfortunate, but kind of something you've been working on, but not quite there yet. The big news here is Kilkowski's kind of in the same boat, where he's almost always getting last in a deadlift, and the front bar car deadlift, well, he's still behind most everyone else in the deadlift, is the probably best possible scenario. He ended up getting 3 reps for 2.5 total points because he placed above Oberst, and Zydrunas tied. So, it's a lot better to get 2.5 points than it is to get 1 or 0. And, once it comes down to the finals, I think that's going to be big. But I think that half point is going to be big that, you know, if he could have just, like, I think if he could have got 5 and tied with L's up there, I think it would have been huge. But, you know, he was pulling, you know, he's touching on his glute a little bit, so it was definitely bothering him. Johan L's got 5 for 4 points. Belsack 6 for 5 points. Janasia with his torn hands, I think it's affecting him. Only got 7, even though he's such a great deadlifter, for 6 points. Martins Lisis had a great little battle with JF Caron. They went head to head. Martins was kind of just pulling like from the hip, just not even paying attention with it, and he ends up with 10, and Caron gets 11, and then Shaw went with Kilkowski, but Thor ended up with 12, and he looked really strong with it. He looked like he was the strongest deadlifter out there, but Shaw also ended up with 12. His reps at the end were a little, his hips, were they all the way through? I think on a car deadlift, they're pretty lax with that judgment, but his last 2 were not as clean, but they got the down call. They ended up tied with 12. But what you saw with there is, even though Hafthor Bjornsson's the better deadlifter, it looks like Brian Shaw was more, he's better tactician, and he paced his reps better, and you know, where Thor paced his better, he probably could have gotten another one. Then the last event of the day was the overhead barbell. They're using a, it's like they have some wagon wheels on a Rogue barbell, and it's probably about 16 inches pick height, I'm told. That's a rough estimate. Interesting event. I think it definitely threw some of the athletes off. It started at 175 kilos, which is whatever in pounds. Not playing that game with you guys. Everyone's hands were torn, and I think the barbell makes it even worse. It's, of course, again, thinner and has knurling. Janasia couldn't even pick it up, and he looked furious. And I think he definitely could. Normally, he did 200 kilos on a log at Europe's. So he ends up getting 0 points and ends the day with 14 total points. Johan Els looked like he suffered some sort of shoulder injury. So he got 0 points, ends the day with 5 points. These are unofficial results, of course. Then it went up, you know, then after everyone else was good at 175 kilos, then it went to 190, and JF Caron, I think, passed. I'm not sure if he passed or he missed 190, so he ends up with 3 points in that event for 11 total. And then, you know, the Belsack, Zadrunas, Oberst all get 190 kilos. Shaw also gets 190 kilos. They all also miss 200 kilos. Shaw got it right about to here. And this is going to be big, because they all split points. They end up getting 5.5 points. So everyone above them, you know, Lisis and Matthias Kilkowski, who ended up with 200 kilos for 8.5 points, they gained 3 points on all of those guys in that one event. And Hafthor ends up with 10 points, the only person to hit 205 kilos, which I think is about 451 pounds. Gets big 10 points, gaining 4.5 points on Brian Shaw, which is big, ending the day with 26.5 points. So at the end of the day, the total is 26.5 points for Hafthor Bjornsson, 24 for Brian Shaw, so he's 2.5 points up. Martins Lisis has 21.5 for third, with Kilkowski with 21. And so we got a 4-person race because it's a big drop after that, going down to Janasia with 14 points, Belsack with 11.5, Caron with 11, you know, Oberst with 9.5. So yeah, there's a huge gap, those 4 people, and you know, barring something drastic happening, which I don't think will, should just be pulling ahead from here. But yeah, that overhead can end up being big, and I said it, you know, it matters on the jumps. You know, there's going to be a big tie, and whoever can get that little bit is going to have a huge advantage. So Thor being able to be the only person to get that extra 5 kilos is big, and it's big for Kilkowski and Lisis to get that 200 kilo. Going into day 2, I'm going to pull something else up here. We have the first event being the bus pull. That's scheduled to happen from 8 to 9:30 in Manila, Philippines time. It's supposed to be a 20-ton bus, and it's going to be either 25 or 30 meters. I think Kilkowski could continue to climb and make up big points. This is important for Martins. He had problems with his shoes last year. Hopefully that's all sorted out. I remember a conversation with someone close to him a couple months ago saying they're not going to let him borrow someone else's shoes for such an important event. But if he has, similar problems, that could drop him in the points and could make Kilkowski move up soundly into second, second or third over Lises. Shaw, always been good at, this is a standard kind of truck pull, not a plane, or it's a bus again. He didn't do it in the qualifiers, but, last year he struggled a little bit in that. And I heard that he had some sort of injury to his foot pad training truck pull a couple weeks ago, but he had some, pretty advanced treatment for that. So that's something that could, factor in. And then the next event, we have a loading race, which is a very cool, I think, and a very throwback event. There's 5 implements, not 3, not 4, not 5. So this is a true medley. They're slated to do, I think, how far are they supposed to go? I don't know. And they're going to be placed on platforms as well. And they're odd objects, which I think really favors Hafthor Bjornsson just with his size, just going up, scooping things up. They're going to do a 245-pound anchor, a 275-pound anvil, a 265-pound keg, a 330-pound sandbag, and a 265-pound safe. And they have 75 seconds to complete it. So that's definitely a gasser. The bus pull and that are not going to be fun with super torn hands. So I think Janashia is going to have a hard time in general. But yeah, there could be some big point swings. I think Kilkowski looks like he has the best foot speed. If they were like just normal stuff like sandbags, I think he wins it for sure. I think the odd objects favor more Thor and Shaw. Lises looked really fast in the qualifiers group when they did a sandbag into farmers. But when they're doing so many different objects, it really depends on who can adapt the quickest in between implements, and change their technique up, or that doesn't need as much technique like Hafthor. Then it's the Atlas Stones. Coming down the Atlas Stones, that's going to be start around from 14:30 to 15:30, local Manila time. I'm on the West Coast in California, and I think Manila's 15 hours ahead. So that's what's going on. Zadrunas is out. Janashia hurt his hands. Hafthor's leading. And it's Shaw's in second. Lises is in third. Kilkowski half a point behind in fourth. And it's a 4-person race to see who is the 2018 World's Strongest Man.